The American commander-in-chief has signaled the war against Tehran could become a prolonged conflict. And Donald Trump, he has said that the U.S., it is ready.
We projected 4 to 5 weeks. But we have capability to go far longer than that. We'll do it. Somebody said today, they said, oh, well, if the president wants to do it really quickly after that, he'll get bored. I don't get bored, there's nothing boring about this. The United States munitions stockpiles have, at the medium and upper medium grade, never been higher or better. As was stated to me today, we have a virtually unlimited supply of these weapons. Wars can be fought forever and very successfully, using just these supplies.
Well, this conflict, it threatens to become a major concern for Asia's economies, which are heavily dependent on Gulf energy supplies. Let's try and break it down for you. The Strait of Hormuz, that route, it plays a crucial role in that and as an export part to both Asia as well as Europe. And some of the biggest energy importers, they include India, China, Japan, as well as South Korea. Beijing is the biggest buyer of crude through this particular strait, importing some 5.4 million barrels per day through the waters of Iran. India is next with just over 2 million daily. Then comes South Korea and Japan, both heavily exposed by this very risk as well. Now, the Strait of Hormuz, it is not just another maritime passage, it is also one of the most critical energy arteries in the world. Nearly 20% of all seaborne oil passes through the narrow stretch of water. That equates to almost 21 million barrels of crude every single day. And what is even more significant is where this oil goes. 83%, roughly 83% of it is destined for Asian markets. A massive portion of the oil trade, it flows through the Strait of Hormuz, meaning that the recent statement by Iran about closing the route, it will massively disrupt the energy markets.
The strait is closed. If anyone tries to pass, the heroes of the Revolutionary Guard and the regular Navy will set those ships ablaze.
Well, I'm now joined by Ambassador Mahesh Sachdev, the president of Eco Diplomacy and Strategy, is a consultancy firm on economic strategy. Mr. Sachdev, thank you very much for speaking with RT India. Say, for example, if this particular strait, it stays closed for some time, what will we see next? Is it the higher prices or is it the actual shortages of oil?
I think it will be both, and both are linked together. IEA and even OPEC at some time expected this year, 2026, to be a glut year for oil supplies, with demand slackening and supplies rising, particularly from non-OPEC plus countries. But political risks posed by Gulf closure have inverted this forecast, and we are likely, in case this persists, to see a significant shortage of crude, and that would send the prices up. But the heightening prices have already taken place, even though much of the oil that Gulf used to export is on the seas. To their respective destinations. So in the short term, the higher prices, but then the critical shortages would also follow.
Yeah. We also mentioned a little while earlier that a significant amount of this particular oil, it goes roughly 83% of it roughly goes to the Asian markets. Having said that, how quickly would countries in Asia, would they start feeling the impact?
Well, the impact of higher prices is already being felt.
Okay.
Secondly, I would like to correct you a bit. According to my information, India imported in January this year 2.77 million barrels per day, and not 2.1 million that you mentioned. This was partly to offset the Russian supplies declining, by choice by India. But coming back to your question, the Asian buyers would have to diversify away from the Gulf in the short run, and they would have to resort to the providers of crude from other sources, such as in Africa, such as in Europe, Russia, Far East would be a good example, Canada, Australia, Brazil, and to some extent United States could become alternative sources, at least in the short run. But many of these destinations of supplies are far away and would take time to get there. I should also add that other related hydrocarbon supplies, including LNG, LPG, and petrochemicals, are also likely to be affected, and they would have critical impact on Asian economies, particularly those who depend on chemical fertilizers from the Middle East. India does, so does China to some extent. And all these would become increasingly expensive and in short supply in case the Strait of Hormuz continues to be closed. The alternatives to Strait of Hormuz would gain importance, such as Fujairah, which is outside the Gulf but belongs to UAE, Duqm Port, and the port on the Red Sea, such as Jeddah and Yanbu, that Saudi Arabia has connected with its crude pipelines. So all those would become important. But then there's also related question as to whether Al-Houthis, who kept the Red Sea at Bab el-Mandeb in disruption against Israel's attack on Hamas in Gaza, may resort to the same tactics again now that Iran is under threat. If that happens, then Bab el-Mandeb would also become difficult to trans through.
Yeah.
And that is another question.
Mr. Sachdev, say, for example, if the oil is still flowing, can fear alone push prices up sharply?
I didn't get that question. Can what?
I'm saying even if the oil is still flowing, maybe through alternate routes, can fear alone push the prices up sharply?
Of course, it's a strategic commodity, and market sentiments often are ahead of the real shortages, as it has already happened. In run-up to the actual fighting, the prices had gone up to from low 60s to low 70s. And once the fighting started, the oil price within a day went up to $83 yesterday. So all that is basically fear of uncertainty, of disruption, and permanent damage being inflicted, as yesterday's attack on Ras Tanura refinery in Saudi Arabia, and the oil depots in Duqm Port goes to show. So the fear factor would exaggerate the actual shortage, and sentiments would get ahead of the facts. Reverse would also be true. In case the fighting was to stop suddenly, the prices would decline as euphoria sets in, even before actual supplies have heightened. So it works both ways, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And the consumers have to be ready for this kind of short-term ups and downs.
All right. Ambassador Mahesh Sachdev, thank you very much for speaking with RT India, sir.
Thank you.